make square B16 and sew to the left edge of B20. Press the seam towards B20. And then take rectangle B15 and we're going to sew that along this upper edge. And we're going to press that seam up. Next we need to look at the longer right angle triangles. So you want to take a pair of B13 and B14s. So we've got these two triangles and you're starting off with a 5 3/4 of an inch rectangle which we cut diagonally, and it's helpful to trim them down to 4.5 inches from the base so that you've got the tip missed out on them. And then when you're positioning them, we need to position them so that at the 1/4 inch seam you're going to hit right on that corner there. Try and bring it in, try and remember that, please. Okay, so you're trying to get it, this bit here wants to be 1/4 inch, and then that should work out that the same thing happens at the other end, and it just makes it a little bit easier if you've not got all this extra point. You can see a little bit better what's going on. And we need to make sure that we sew 2 mirror images, not 2 exactly the same. So you should have 2 that look like that, and we're just going to press those, just trying to find the name of them so that we know what they're called. Okay, so they're B13 and B14. So we're going to press them toward, well, one way, one the other way, because that'll make it sit a little better. Okay, so we're going to press this one towards B13 and we're going to press that one towards B14. I suppose we probably should check on these that they've come out the right size. And not bad at all. They're supposed to be 4.5 by 2.5, which, considering we've got a long rectangle, so you can just trim those down a little bit. Just try and centre it as best as you can so that you kind of you're trying to get it so that the amount of seam allowance on here is about the same on both sides. Let's check on this one. So we just come out a tiny bit too wide for the lengths, right? So I'm quite pleased with that. Okay, and then we're going to sew these 2 together. It goes around that way, doesn't it? Like that, and we can put those seams up because we press one way and one the other way. Okay, and we're going to sew down the B13 edge. Okay, and now we're going to press that seam open to try and reduce some of the bulk here because it's a little bit awkward. And we can just check that this should be a 4.5 inch square, which is not bad. Not bad at all. So I'm not going to worry about trimming that down. Okay, and then this we're going to sew onto the left edge of B15 and B16 along this seam here. And then we're just going to press the seam towards the B15 and B16 so that we're not increasing that bulk there. Okay, so that's the bottom, middle row of this star here. So we're going to do the same here for these B11s and B12s. So we're just going to take off the tips and then let's have a look. So B11 is the lighter colour triangle and B12 must be the sage green. So we're going to be sewing those along. Let's put them so they're opposite so that we're not going to accidentally sew 2 in the same direction. Okay, I'm going to sew along these seams here. Okay, so that's them sewn, and we're going to press them so the seam goes towards the light on one of them and the dark on the other. With my tin iron on. And if you do find these kind of triangles difficult, you can get dies for them. I've got a Sizzix Big Shot, and you can get dies for them for that. And then they cut them out exactly the right size. It's just make life a little easier. So we folded that one over to the green side, so this one over to the cream side. And we'll just check that they are the right kind of size. So not too bad at all, so I'll just even those up a little bit. I think this is more just to do with the original cutting accuracy than anything else, really. Okay, I'm going to put them together like that, and so along that B12 line, butting the seams together to make sure that our points are good. Okay, and we'll press the seam open. Like so, and then we're going to get the big square B19. So this is the top of the star, so we're going to sew this edge of B11 to B19 square, like so. Okay, and we're going to press the seam towards B19. Okay, get the other half of the star. I'm going to sew the top to the middle section, butting our seams together. And we're going to press the seam up to B19 on this one. Yeah, there's some nice shading going through in a kind of rainbow effect there. I'm sure I'm meant to do that. Right, so that makes that little star block. So next we're going to do the strip that goes along this side. So we've got B17, B18 and B6. I'm going to sew those all together. Okay, so we've got those sewn together, and we're going to press all the seams, so it goes that way, doesn't it? All the seams down towards the lighter one, so towards B17. Okay, so we actually need to do this half star that's on the very top. Okay, so we've got B5, we've got 2 B2s and 4 each of B3 and B4. So the first thing we want to do is to sew the half square triangles, so pairing up B3 and a B4, and do that 4 times. Okay, so I've done that, so I'm just going to separate them out, and we're going to take 3 of them, and we're going to press them, the seams towards the darker, which is B4. So I've got it written on the screen behind me, but it's still not that easy to spot at a quick glance. So if I was doing the full one, I would do this differently, but as we've only got a half star, we're just going to do it this way. So we're going to take a mismatched one, and we're going to sew these together along B4, putting the seams together. And we're going to take this one, and we're going to press the seams open. I've got my, as you can see here, I've got my iron on a low steam. Do be careful when you're pressing with stuff on steam, because you can stretch things a little and burn yourself. So we're next going to take this B5 rectangle, and we're going to sew it along the edge of the B3. That's it. Okay, after that we're going to press that towards B5. Okay, so that's the centre of our star. so next we need to take one of these. Oh, you need to make sure you got your, is that the right way around? Nope. There. I always put in the patterns, check your orientation, which always sounds a bit odd really, but you know, you do just need to have a look and check everything is in the right direction. So we're going to have these B2 squares, we've got our B3, B4 half square triangles, flip them up, and then we're going to sew along this edge along B3, okay? And helpful to, so you don't whatnot. Okay, so I'm sewing along this edge here. Okay, and then for each of these we're going to just open these out and press them towards the B, God, I'm trying to remember, B2 square. Yeah, I'm never entirely sure on the iron whether you're better to having it with, I mean obviously press is better if you've got the steam on. Generally what happens is I use the steam until it runs out of water, and then I don't bother using it until there's something that I really do need steam for, and fill it up again and then let it dry out. So, okay, I find it's helpful to lay them out into the shape that you want and then just flip these over to sew on the star points. So we're just going to be sewing around these two sides here. And something I should have said here was to make sure that as you go along here, just to make sure that we're butting these seams together, because I completely forgot about it and I've just sewn mine. They're a little bit off there. Can you see? A little bit off. I broke my fingernail on this side. Look, it's like a little baby one and stick on my eyes. I know you're supposed to cut them all at the same time, but I never do. I just go along kind of, look, me. So Jack's barking in the background. He's just spotted someone. Right, so we're going to press these towards the inside of the star. Here we go. And we've got this one goes that way up. We've got a little star. And in one of the later blocks, we're going to be making the other half of that star. So you get to have another go if you didn't do it right this time. And we're going to sew that to the top edge of B6. This was that strip from before. So look how nicely shaded that is. Yeah, it's nice. Okay. So we're just flipping that over there. Like so. Okay, I'm going to just press that seam. I'm going to go back down to pressing it towards the B6. Okay, and that makes up the left edge of this block. Alright, the last bit of fancy stuff with triangles is we've got this square and a square where we've got the light pink B9 and this nice plum with B8, and so we're going to sew all four of those half square triangles. Okay, so we've got those. Just going to separate them from when I've chain stitched them, and we're going to press them so that we have two going towards the B8 and two towards B9. Can't remember which way around they were, but I just kind of pair them up as I go and then make sure that I don't make the wrong number. So that goes there. So this one wants to be, so you put whichever colour you want to press away down first, and then the seam will then get pressed away from that colour. Okay, so then we're going to take, we want to orientate them. So we're going to, if you lay them out like this, because ideally what we want to do is make it so we've got two identical halves. Okay, and we're going to match those seams. So butt them up nicely, give it a wiggle, and you can kind of feel as they settle in nicely. And we're sewing down this B, which one is it? B8 edge here. So we now should have two identical half ones, and we're going to just press these seams open. See, if my fingernail hadn't broken, it would be easier to. I find I'm bereft when I break my pointy finger, because it's just so useful. The thumbnail, I have to say, I've been trying to knot some threads recently, and where you're tying the knot really close to it, your work, and it's actually, my nails have actually been quite so long they've made it a little difficult, so it's probably not a bad thing. I mean, so what we've got now is we've got two exactly the same, which means that when we put these together, each of these seams you could cut some of these ends up. Each of these seams will butt together really nicely. So we're going to sew that together again along the B8. So okay, so then we just need to press this one open in there. And try not to worry too much about these if you don't get them all bang on. But the main point that I put them in is so that we get a nice pop of colour. So it doesn't matter if they're not perfect. Although look how nice that is. That's she says, don't worry if your points aren't in, but look at my points, look how good they are. Look at that, everyone. See, so if you take your time, press them, yours too can be this nice. Although I don't think it's as square as it could be. Oh, it's not bad. It's not bad there. Pretty good, yeah, so I'm pleased with that. Anyway, so she says, showing off. Right, so next we want square B7, which is this beautiful fabric. This is so nice. I think this is one of the high-end synth ones. So we're just going to B7, fold it over, sew along this top edge here. I think it's a Hoffman one, highest synth range. They're so pretty. I love all of them. Although now what I've done, I've sewn out that beautifully at a point, and I've put it in here, and I've just lopped the corner off it. But we're not gonna worry about that. So we're just going to press this seam up. And one of the reasons I was saying before I was showing off that I was perfect and then mucked it up was that I mean, this corner here, we're going to be going up with some flowers across it. So there's a reasonable chance we're just going to like hide half of this anyway. So no one's even going to know that you had a perfect point before you sewed over it. So here we have rectangles B1 and large square B. Well, actually we can't put that one there, but we'll just sew this one and then large square B10 along that edge. Okay, so to reduce the seam bulk, we're going to press these outwards. So most of the time when I'm doing them on the deciding which seam goes which way to press the seams, I'm either looking to reduce seam bulk, so this would be difficult to press that way, or I'm trying to make it so that when we put things together the seams will butt in opposite ways, and that helps everything lay flatter and it makes it easier to actually hit those seams. So we've now got the 3 sections to make your background. So we're going to sew this top section, so top right to bottom right, and we're going to sew along that B10, B11, 12 seam along here. Okay, so we're just going to press that. I'm going to press the seam towards the B11, B12, which is going to be a little bit messy, but we're not going to worry about it too much. As I say, I try and reduce the seam bulk and make things lay down as best as possible, but you know, sometimes it doesn't happen, and we are going to be putting a applique over it and quilting it, so you know, you're not really going to know at that point. Okay, so we're going to flip this left edge and sew along this kind of the B19 square side on the left side. So that's all together. So we're just going to press this last seam, and we're going to press it this way towards the big star. And just give a good press on those corners, try and get them in. And then nice press over the whole of the block. And that is looking very pretty. I don't tend to worry about squaring up the block, because by the time we've embroidered on it, it's not going to be as square as it started off anyway, so we'll worry about that when the time comes. Okay, so I hope that was helpful, and next we're going to be looking at getting these bunnies appliqued on them. So they're going to be going, I think they're like this, aren't they? Should be nice.